Thank you everybody for attending this evening. Don't think we've got any apologies for absence, have we, Ian?
Oh, we got a full house. It's excellent.
Full house, lovely. Consider any variations of order of business. What I'd like to propose is putting number 1 on our list, you know, the 18 dwellings on Old Hackney Lane. Can we move that to the last item? Yeah. And also, we've had a last minute one come through as well, haven't we, Ian?
We have, yes. I sent that out, literally came in at 4 o'clock today.
Yeah. So can we...
I'll second that motion.
Sorry, Steve?
He'll second it.
That
Right, okay. And so the one that came in late, can we put that as item 3? Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic.
I'll second that one as well, Julie, for you.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. We have had something come in, and it's a very good letter that came in about the 18 dwellings on Old Hackney Lane. So what I'd like to do is to, rather than read it now, if we save that until the end, so then it's fresh in our minds what their objections are, because I thought they made some really, really good points.
Okay.
Do you mean you want to pick that up alongside the discussion around that application then, Julie?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Do we need a resolution to do that, or can you just elect to do it, do you think?
Oh, I think I'll just do it.
Yes,
I'll play devil's advocate.
Yeah. Relates directly to it, I think you're fine.
Yeah. Right, do we have any declarations of members' interests for any of the ones this evening? The late one coming in is Ochre Avenue. It's for
cladding into
the cladding, you know, the insulation that they've been putting on all the houses down there. So, is everybody
So
okay?
no declarations of interest then, no?
Nope.
Okay. Right, so as we're shifting item 1 to item 4, our first full one then is the single story rear extension to 39 Morledge, Matlock. So have we all had a chance to look at this?
Yes, I have.
Julie, I've not seen any of them, unfortunately. I've been absolutely snowed under.
All right, no.
I may try and look at them when I get in. I'm just pulling on the drive in a second.
Right, okay. Well, I'll just give you a brief rundown then, Steve, what it is. It's Morledge, so you know the new estate up near the Arc.
Yeah.
It's a terrace of 4 houses, and the one of the middle ones of the terrace wants to put a single story rear extension on the back, which in itself I thought didn't sound too offensive. But when I had a closer look at this, there's a couple of things that slightly worried me about it. The first thing is the depth that it's coming out. It's going to be overhanging the neighbouring property. So whereas the house that's joined on at the moment looks out and doesn't see anything, they will be looking out and seeing the side of an extension, albeit only 1.3 metres. So it's whether we think that's significant. It is only single story, so I don't think it would cut off too much of their light. Oh, Alan Long's trying to ring me. Sorry about that. But the other thing that worried me about it is the side that isn't up against the fence is going to have 3 full height windows in the side of it. So that will be looking on the property joined on the other side of it.
Number of previous planning applications, haven't they?
Yes, they've previously done a loft conversion, so they've already got quite a few Felix windows in the
Yeah,
room.
that had 9 previous planning applications.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, I
I
didn't
couldn't
know.
find out exact. Yes, I noticed it had 9 previous planning applications. I couldn't pick out exactly what it had planning applications for, but I did notice it had 9 previous planning applications.
Perhaps
And
they
I thought,
keep
what?
changing their mind.
Yeah, I couldn't get onto the site to see what that had the planning applications for.
Right.
I thought, well, what on earth did it have
As I
them
say,
for?
Okay,
I
Julie,
know
I've got that. I've got that screen up if you want me to rattle through them. So
yeah.
the first related to the Morledge plot, so it didn't specifically relate to that property. It was about the size of the plots in the early days.
Right.
There's a single-story rear extension. Oh, blimey. Do you know what? Looking at these, I think most of these relate to the site and, you know, when they were planning it and before the house was actually built, without going into each one. So, for example, it says erection of 54 new houses. And so they're sort of wider planning applications. But while you carry on talking, I'll just check some of these to make sure they don't relate specifically to that one.
Yeah.
So I couldn't get at the site. I just happened to see that there were 9. I couldn't get up to check.
Yeah. It looks like they probably relate to when it was originally
Right, fair enough.
built, but Ian's going to check that anyway.
Fine.
So, as I say, my concerns with it were for the neighbours either side. One's going to lose a little bit, perhaps, of light or visibility, and the other one is going to have 3 full height windows looking across onto their property. Now, okay, you can say there's probably a 6-foot fence there. So
is it going to be outside the scope of permitted development?
It must be, because they're applying for planning.
I think on Morledge you've got the requirement. I don't think you've got permitted development rights on Morledge.
No permitted development rights.
Yes.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law lives on Morledge, and she had to have permission for a conservatory, which in the normal scope of things would have been on permitted development. But she had to go full planning for that.
Yeah, we do seem to get.
There are some little quirks on newer estates. On newer estates, there seems to be quirks where development is limited until you actually formally ask for things. I would think, without looking at this case is permitted.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, Jason, because we do seem to get a lot for Morledge, don't we?
Yeah, porches and things.
Yeah.
I think it's because the permitted development rights have been removed, and it's to make people conform with their expectations of being neighbourly and in context. I think Ian wants to say something.
I was just going to say, I've checked, Julie, and they all relate to William Davis Limited and the site as a whole.
Right,
so,
fair enough.
Okay, fine. So anyway, they were my observations. I don't know, what did you think, Jason?
I saw the windows. I didn't actually check the proximity of the windows to the side of the property. I thought it was strange to have so many windows just in one side. If I was the neighbour and I was seeing into their property, I'd have an issue with that. But I have to be honest, I didn't look at the proximity of the neighbour's property to where the end of the extension was. If that's something somebody can look at, that would be great, because I can't throw another screen up because I'm sat in the car.
It juts out because at the moment, the house that's going to be next to the actual extension, you know, they'll have a party wall. It actually steps back to the property that wants the extension. So part of their extension will be up against the party wall, but 1.3 metres will be beyond the party wall. And because it's going to be a sloping roof, obviously there's probably not going to be that much inconvenience for them, but it will be there.
Well, my comment would be, if you want to create more light in your property, why don't you look to the sky to create it rather than visual panels outside that could be intrusive to neighbours?
They're doing that, Jason. They put, I don't know, perhaps they want it as a solarium because they're having skylights,
Yeah.
bifold doors, and then 3 full windows in the side. So
It seems excessive. I would, if I look at it as if I was the neighbour next door, having not viewed, you know, I had no knowledge of what they was doing. If I suddenly saw 2/3 windows coming onto my property, I think I'd be probably slightly annoyed. And from that point of view, I'd say it's excessively invading on the privacy of the neighbour.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I think so. Because normally windows in the sides of properties have to be fairly discreet, don't they?
Yeah. I would.
Dawn, I could just see your fingers sticking up.
Am I allowed to talk on this? Because I'm not a member of the planning.
Of course you can.
What as a character? Just, have you had any residents' comments? Have they? There was nothing online to say that the residents are against.
At all.
No, there's nothing online.
It's not. Am I looking at the right one? It says a kitchen extension, not a porch.
No, it's kitchen.
Kitchen.
Right.
Kitchen, yeah.
Okay, that was all. It's just I wondered if there'd been representation from any neighbours, because that's generally a good guide to how they feel.
No,
not that we're aware of.
there's a lot of
listed, but then website, do you?
No, they could have gone directly there, couldn't they?
Dave, yeah.
there's quite a few shared mortgage, whatever purchase, shared purchase. I'm
shared
just wondering if
ownership.
next door. Yeah, I think Platform have got some up there, haven't they?
I don't
So
know.
it's the next door. Yeah, is the next door probably Platform, or I don't know.
Don't know.
It's who owns whatever next door but one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whether it affects them or the people that own the house.
Well, you've also got to look at future people who are moving in. If you know, would you want to have the privacy of your enjoyment of your own personal garden viewed by another neighbour if not necessary? And my thoughts of it are it is visually obstructive, and I would deem it unnecessary, but I am struggling now to look at the plans, but I did look at them earlier on.
Yeah, I think it's excessive given that they've got full bifold doors across the back and skylights. Why on earth do they need 3 full height windows in the side?
Yeah.
So I'd like to propose that we object. I can't find, off the top of my head, I can't.
Material planning.
Yeah.
Material grounds.
It could probably be under material planning. I can't off the top of my head think what it is, but I will slot it into something. Yes, Dave.
Okay.
Can that not come under privacy invasion?
I should think it probably can. I'll write that down. So can I propose then that we object to this one on the grounds of invasion of privacy, and I'll couch it in the appropriate terms and slot it around a policy.
Potential.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone's okay with that?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So next one, 21 Pollard Way, St Elphins. If you've not had a chance to look at it, it's
porch, isn't it?
Oh, I don't know how to say this.
Sorry?
Just a porch.
It is the front porch,
yeah. It's a big porch, but I think it's rather magnificent.
Yeah.
That's it. I'll tell you where it is. If you know St Elphins at all, where their allotments are, it's the very last house as you're walking down, very last block as you're walking down to the allotments on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
So it backs onto the fields behind, and it's kind of on the corner. So when you come past the north entrance, if you were to look in, it's the house you're looking at. I don't think it's not going to interfere with anybody because they're kind of almost in splendid isolation where they are. and I think it's rather a nice piece of architecture, having looked at it. I don't know what. Sorry, Jason.
I thought the same. I thought it was thoughtful. I thought it was sympathetic, and it didn't stand out. I mean, yes, it does. It is probably a little larger, but if people want to use a porch, it needs to be. It's in keeping. Yeah. I had no hesitation of that. That was something that it had some thought given to it. So that's fine by me.
Yeah.
Julie?
Yes, Steve.
Have you seen the representations received on this one? There are 3 representations received.
Right, okay. Could you read them out, please, Steve?
Yeah, just bear with me 1 second while I just pull them up.
Okay.
Right, so, documents, view associate documents. Right, okay, so some of the writing's not that easy to read. So I'll read you this one first of all as best I can. So, single-storey porch extension, 21 Pollard Way, St Elphins, Darley Dale. I wish to object to the above application. The size, structure and design. I the above proposed porch destroys the existing building line and is quite out of keeping with other something within the village.
Porches within the village.
Porches, right, okay. I refer you to a previous application, reference number 17-01026 full, in respect of a proposed cover to the entrance of Devonshire Court in Elphins. Yeah, I remember the Devonshire Court one, that was refused. This application was refused because the sighting, scale and design of the entrance canopy would appear as an incongruous addition to the apartment block and would visually
jar with it.
Visually jar with it.
My writing's obviously worse than yours, Steve, so I can make sense of it.
Cohesive architecture stroke appearance of the wider apartment complex, contrary to policies SF5 and H2 of the adopted Derbyshire Dales Local Plan 2005. Well, we've got a new adopted local plan now, haven't we, Julie?
We have, yeah, 2017.
Yeah, so policies PD1 and HC10 of the emerging Derbyshire Dales Local Plan and guidance is that outlined? Contained within the National Planning Policy Framework 2012. The name's blocked out, so I'm not sure, but it's from somebody at Kennedy Court. So that's the first one. And the next one, the next one's typed, so hopefully it'll be easier to read. So the next one says, having studied the plans in some detail, I am of the opinion that the visual impact of this application will be detrimental to the appearance of the village. It looks like you are driving into some form of castle with a gatehouse. This is particularly strong as it is the first view had when you enter the village by the north gate. It would also appear to be out of proportion to the rest of the building. Another concern is that should this application be approved, other similar applications will be made to the detriment of the general appearance and ambience of the village. So a little bit of a typo, I think, there on that one. Mm. And then the last one. So I would like the planning committee to consider the following objections to the current planning application for a single-storey porch extension to 21 Pollard Way. The proposal goes beyond the current building line for Pollard Way and is visible from many properties on site. The proposed plan would be out of keeping with other properties on site because, number one, it's on the screen. The plan is a porch for a single property which is nearly twice the size of the entrance porch to Pollard Way, thus out of proportion, and increases the footprint of the property. Number two, the position is such that it will be seen by all owners and visitors approaching and leaving St Elphins by the north entrance and is not hidden by trees or shrubs. Number 3, the plans show a closed-in porch when all other new build ground floor properties in St Elphins have either open patio coverings or no covering, and it says see site photographs. Number 4, the plans show the only balcony on site with no access from the property. Number 5, the plans extend the single property in Pollard Way, offering substantial additional space and facilities which are not enjoyed by any of the neighbours in the newly built properties. It is understood the objective of this extension is to provide undercover space for a single mobility scooter for an owner who does not currently have a scooter but is understood to require more space. A tradition has been established at St Elphins by a large number of owners on site with mobility scooters who keep them either in the property or outside under a temporary cover. The functional objective of an extension to accommodate a scooter under cover could be achieved by a simple structure to the north side elevation of the property without incurring any of the above objections, and could be hidden from view by means of suitable trees and shrubs. The planning proposal has no current function other than to extend 21 Pollard Way to distinguish it from other properties, and is beyond its original purpose as a retirement dwelling at St Elphins.
Right, thanks.
Is
Thanks,
that it?
Steve. Right, well, that's made me think again then, because I did notice, I don't know if you did, Jason, you know, sort of the railings round the top that made it look like a balcony, because I was thinking, well, what is the point of that? Because you can't access it. However,
well, no, I just thought it was architectural.
Yeah, but
I just thought it was in the design, but
it kind of followed on from the next window along, didn't it? That had the railings as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of get that. What that has made me think of though is they don't own the land, do they?
No.
So how can they get a porch?
Usually they have to ask permission of Audley themselves.
Of Audley, yeah. So I don't quite know what the situation is with that. Where they would.
Hold on, sorry, Judy.
They have to go through the management committee. I would imagine, like we do at Sidney Hall.
Yeah.
I would imagine that would be the process, that they would have to approach their management committee and formally ask them for permission. No. Because of the ground space.
Guys, sorry to interrupt, but the applicant here is actually Alex Hales. It's not one of the owners. It's Alex Hales who's applying for this.
Right. Okay.
And if you recall, Alex Hales.
Oh yes.
He was the chap who came and gave the presentation for the additional properties. It's in Elphins.
He is. Yes.
Right. So this isn't one of the owners. This is Audley themselves applying for it.
Right. Okay.
And as the representations received say, there was a previous application for a porchway which was declined by planning. And I would say, my own opinion, built based on the size of this structure, I would object. Right. Okay.
I think Steve's right there. Actually, I've just found a piece of paper that has that gentleman's name on it. That's Mr. Alex Hayes there.
Yeah,
Alex Hales,
on the site notice as well, Ian. It's on the site.
Okay, so that's the checklist, Julie. So consultation checklist, that one.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't find I'm very often wrong with things how I feel, but I'm starting to think that perhaps it is out of proportion. I haven't visited site. It certainly didn't look, in my mind, it didn't look wrong on the plan, but I stand to be corrected.
No, I agree with you on that, Jason. Dave, yeah, sorry.
Why is Alex Hales putting the application through?
Sorry?
Why is he putting the application through? Who owns the house?
They own the land.
Be the freehold owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, they hold.
Right.
They will hold the rest of the property.
So, do they agree that he can have this, or are they just rubber stamping it, or what they're doing?
Well, they must agree with that if they're doing the application.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm getting at. So the objections, they can just wave them through anyway. It doesn't really matter, does it?
They still have to get it past planning, Dave. It's still.
No.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's on their land, and they seem to be able to do what they like on there.
I'd say they've been turned down for a porch previously, but I've just looked at the site plan because, as I said before, I've not looked at any of these. I know the owners of the property, and I do know at this stage they don't have a mobility scooter if it's the property I'm thinking of. So,
right.
Mm.
Okay, Dawn. Yep. Sorry. Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I think all of this is irrelevant. You've had representations from the public, and it's our role to look at them representations and support the public, the residents. So it really, to me, it doesn't matter about who owns the land and stuff. It's the residents have objected.
Sure.
So,
sure. Yeah.
That's really where I'm getting at.
I agree. Well,
let's go for the residents.
I agree, but we also have to have material planning reasons for recommending that we want to object. So I would go on.
Does it go for it spoils the aesthetic view of the scenery around it, or?
It's going to be very prominent. It's going to be very prominent in the position they're looking at for it. When you look at the size of it, it is going to be out of proportion, in my opinion.
So it's aesthetically not acceptable.
Is it going to set a precedent for the other owners as well? You know, if you're going to allow something of that size. Okay, then. Well, on this one, then,
I propose that we object to this. I'll find something to couch it, you know, in planning terms. But I think
visually visually obstructive. Visually obstructive.
Yeah.
It's the aesthetic bit. Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
So sorry to be a bit picky, but Julie, can you try and summarise what the proposal is, and then we can get it seconded and.
Right, okay, yeah, so I'd like to propose that we object to this application on the grounds of visual appearance and scale. Can I have a seconder?
I'll second that, Julie.
Lovely, thank you. So all those in favour?
Julie, just looking at the list of material planning considerations, you've got overshadowing stroke loss of outlook to the detriment of residential amenity, because it is going to stick out like a sore thumb where it is as well.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Thank you. Okay. So the new kid on the block is the next one, Ochre Avenue. Just bear with me because I didn't have a chance to write this one down. So have you all had this one?
No.
Is this
I sent it out, but it came in quite late, so sorry everybody. But...
Is this the cladding one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Cladding. Yeah.
It's just it's outside the building, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cladding.
It's this. I assume it's going to be the same as the ones that.
Yeah, they're just rendering it, aren't they?
Yeah, we had one come through a couple of months ago, didn't we, for 3 properties?
Yeah, it's either grey or something else, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
I don't think you can stop that. It's a weatherproofing agent, isn't it?
Yeah, and also it's environmentally friendly.
Yeah, it's an environmental thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's insulation. So
anything that improves the appearance on the estate, I would never go against anyway.
Yeah,
I agree. I have no objection to that. I think it's obviously going to help with heat loss, etc., for the property, so it makes perfect sense. And most of it's already done down there anyway.
Yeah, it's not like it's a new thing. It's already a standard half houses anyway.
Yeah. I think probably what's happening is as these properties become vacant and they're void, they're taking the opportunity to upgrade them.
Yeah.
So I'll propose that.
Dawn shaking her head.
Sorry.
Dawn.
It's not properties that are becoming empty, it's properties that have been previously bought and they never took up. The councils, you know, they offered to renovate them at the time, 20 odd years ago. Right. So they're owner owned, I think, I'm pretty sure.
So they'll be taking advantage of this new government scheme then?
Yeah, I think, well, it's all district council stuff. It's not, you know.
But they're coming from Rob Coggins, who's head of housing at district.
Yeah.
That's
But the houses that are social housing have all been they've all been rebuilt, basically.
But if they were privately owned, they'd be applying for the planning themselves. And they're not. These are all coming.
Well, it's a grant, isn't it, that district have got to, I don't know, like you say, it's environment, isn't it? It's to get them up to scratch. So
these are all coming from Rob Coggins. So I'm not quite sure how it works. But anyway.
Yeah.
Dave,
they've got a similar situation going on Hurst Farm at the moment. The people that couldn't afford at the time when there was a scheme going, this is a catch up to make everybody look the same, so they don't feel as if they've been left out. So there's quite a lot on Hurst Farm doing the same thing. They're bringing them up to the standard that the other. So I think we just let this one.
Yeah, I've got no objection.
Run its course.
I propose we vote this one through. You know,
it's a regeneration thing.
So everybody.
I'll second that. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Right, now for the biggie, Old Hackney Lane. Have you all had a chance to read the letter that came in?
Yeah.
Because I thought it was very good, and if you'll just forgive me, I've just got to
there's been a lot on Facebook about this.
Because I had it on this screen.
I can get it on the screen if you like, Julie.
Can you put it on screen?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you.
Yes, that's the one.
So, shall I read it through?
No, I can read it.
Have you all had a chance to look at the drawings?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yes.
No, I've been tree hopping.
Right. Okay. So there's of a potential 57 properties that are earmarked for that field. They've come forward with planning for 18. You know, do you know the field that I mean, Dave? Next to
left-hand side going up. It's behind the old Milner's place.
Yeah, next to Darley House Estate.
Yeah.
The field that they all back
directly to the right-hand side.
That's a bit of green space that disappeared.
Yeah, I'm running all the way up. Yeah. So, okay, so this is the letter that we've received. It says, "Dear councillors, I'm writing on behalf of the Old Hackney Lane Traffic Campaign Group, our old friends, Dave, which cover the 140 plus dwellings on Old Hackney Lane and the Darley House Estate, and in a personal capacity. I would like you to consider the following objections about the planned development, particularly with respect to our very good and comprehensive neighbourhood plan."
Whoa.
They've had a change of heart. Hang on, I'm just trying to scroll down here.
Can't, Ian has to do it.
Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to find it now. Right, hang on.
Okay. Shall I start reading one while you find it? 1. The application site is part of a larger site allocated in the local plan. The large site measures 1.68 hectares and is due to accommodate 57 houses. The current application proposes 18 houses on 0.9 hectares of the larger site. This implies that 39 houses would have to be built on the remaining 0.78 hectares if the requirement of the local plan is to be met. Such a high density would clearly be unacceptable in this location. The application is fundamentally flawed and must be refused on the grounds that it fails to provide a workable solution to the development of the overall site. So I think that is an excellent point. You know, the district council are expecting 57 houses to go onto that.
It's 60s planning, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're taking up, you know, more than half, with just 18 of them. So the ones that are left are going to be very cramped.
It's going to be like poppy fields.
Yeah. So 2, the site plan shows an access road ending on the north boundary and therefore implies future development in the field to the north of the application site. No such development can be allowed and the access road should therefore be deleted. I don't understand what they mean by that. Does anybody else?
Yes, there's very similar to what they did on Walls Farm development back on Gritston Road and things like that in Matlock. They put end cul-de-sacs and turned them as if they was implying future development. I saw that on the plan. I have a reasonable knowledge of that site, and the second point that the person makes there is quite valid. They are being very presumptuous that
it's intent, isn't it?
Is going to be extended, because that was one of my concerns. But that whole site is earmarked for development, whether it's that site or the fields to the right hand side. And to be honest, I think it's presumptuous. But the first point that I had that you just read, Julie, I'd prefer to quantify that by looking again at the plan, because it seems slightly unbelievable that they can put the balance of the houses in what would be the smallest of the site. It just worries me that maybe if that is correct, it's very wrong, and if it isn't correct, we don't want to be refusing something on the grounds of the wrong information. But the second point, which we was asking about, was the presumptions that there was going to be future development. I think is very valid. So I'll let you read number 3 and carry on.
Okay. The documents accompanying the application say that the stone wall running along Old Hackney Lane will be retained. It is not possible to keep the wall and provide safe sight lines for vehicles leaving the site. If the wall is to be retained, the application should be refused on highway grounds. If the wall is to be removed, the applicant must be required to say how they propose to maintain the character of the area. Well, I assume from that, what they'll do is obviously they'll make the splay bigger.
Yeah, to get the other field.
Curve the walls in.
Yeah.
So I don't
have a bigger return. It'll be a bigger return, Julie.
Yeah. 4, Derbyshire County Council's flood management team have objected to the application because the applicant has failed to provide proposals for stormwater management. The application cannot be considered until acceptable stormwater management proposals have been published. Well, given what's happened, to Darlydale in the recent past, then I think that's a fair point, really. Yeah. Number 5, further, no consideration whatsoever has been given in the application about the narrowness of Old Hackney Lane, nor the present issues about exiting from the Darley House estate, which will be exacerbated by this proposed further exit a few metres further up the lane. The local Speedwatch group has regularly recorded vehicles doing speeds of 50 miles an hour plus on the lane, lanes used as a cut through for County Hall, and of the total mayhem that happens each time the bin lorry comes down the lane. Delivery vehicles and tractors drive down, and when, as is frequent, there are roadworks or accidents on the A6. Indeed, Police Commissioner De Hinze has visited, given his support to the campaign, and was present when the whole lane came to a standstill for 40 minutes. Oh, that was handy then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wonder where she parked.
Yeah, I did, with regards to traffic, I did notice there's no comments. Well, certainly when I looked, there was no comments from Highways.
Highways, no.
Ways won't comment, Julie, on out like that.
But they should. That's
yeah, but they won't. That's the problem. That's the big problem we've got in Darlydale. Highways don't get involved in anything.
No.
And that's the big issue I've got with highways. We keep putting houses in, but there's nothing done to the highways. There's no crossings, there's no anything.
No.
They don't want to know.
You can do, really.
It's about
she's got a point. Whoever's put this together has got a point. It is a rat run.
Yeah.
It's a bad rat run.
Oh well, we know that. Yeah, we know it's a rat run. It's you know, it's a very, very good point. And but I would, you know, highways I just think are disgusting for not having the gumption to stand up and say something.
Highways don't get involved in anything. Anytime there's a building of any description, they don't get involved for some reason. They never have.
Madness.
Yeah.
Julie,
yeah.
Julie, could I just say the speed watch was carried out on the top of Hackney Lane, and that was carried out by the Matlock Group. It was carried out right on the top of Hackney Lane. It's not sort of relevant to that area of the bottom of Hackney Lane. They're saying, you know, that falls into our jurisdiction, and we certainly haven't done any speed watch on that area. All I would say from an access point of view is that it's a perfectly straight road. There's obviously going to be a reasonably visual display of, you know, there's no corners to accommodate or anything else like the higher up parts of Hackney. Yes, it is a rat run. Totally get that. It's obviously certain people will speed up there. I understand, but fundamentally, it is given as a place where people are able to build, and they're asking to build. Short of the presumption of, you know, being able to build more, I looked at what they were proposing to build, and the 18 houses didn't seem horrendously bad, but I wasn't aware of the future ones of was it the 54 that was there 57. Before, the 57 that was going to go in a much smaller space. I would have, personally, I would have concerns about that, but the other points that the Andy and Carol Taylor have made are semi-relevant, but they are not particularly to that part of the road.
No.
So.
No, I hear what you're saying, Dave.
It's theoretically another 100 vehicles onto the Hackney Lane, isn't it? There's 100.
Back down a bit so I can read further up, please.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Where do you want to be, Steve?
A bit further, please. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, Julie?
Yeah.
The other thing that bothered me was they've got this other field at the side of this proposed site. If they suddenly decide that they can't get the remainder of the buildings on the point, whatever it is, are they thinking that they can spill over into this next bit of land?
I wouldn't have thought so, not under this local plan. This local plan runs till 2033.
Right, okay.
And it's not allocated for housing, it's still got...
It just seems a lot of houses.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah.
It does.
Where are you going to park? The thing I'm asking the question is, which is why I brought the subject up, where are they going to park?
Well, they'll have their own parking.
But they ain't got space.
Well, there is on the plans.
There is on the 18. There is on the 18.
Yeah.
But if there's another 37 houses and the average is 2 cars per house, theoretically, where are all they going to park?
Yeah. Good
That's
point.
the argument.
Yeah, yeah.
What's happening at the moment with most of the developments that are coming up, they provide a parking area for 1 car. They don't provide provide vehicle parking for 2 cars, which is the average.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I just interject there? Looking at the plan, they are allowing for 2 cars per site on here.
Yeah.
What concerns me is they're taking 0.9 of a hectare for 18 properties, but then they want to put 39 properties on 0.78.
Yeah.
Which effectively means that they're giving them other properties half the space they're giving these. And for me, I just think it's overdevelopment. I genuinely think, and I know we can't apply that to this particular application, but I think if we look at the overall site and the layout, because the permission is for 57 houses, I just think it's overdevelopment. I'm sorry, I just can't get away from the fact that and I suspect this is why they've applied for permission for 18 first, because we have to deal with these 18. But they're effectively saying they want to put 39 properties, which is more than double the 18 that they're putting on this plot of land on 0.9 of a hectare. They're putting on to 0.78 of a hectare. There's no affordable housing, I believe, looking at the plans, and also looking at the objection letters. I don't know if you've seen them. There's 5 objection letters in to these already as well. You know, my own opinion is, I'm sorry, I think there's a reason they've applied for 18 primarily, and that is so that they can get that planning permission through, probably amend the plans, although that's not a material planning consideration. I don't trust what they're saying here. I really don't.
No.
So for me, I mean, you know, if we look at the material planning considerations, do we go against any of the principles of the local plan, Julie?
No, I mean, well, it's going to be hard. I mean, obviously we can object, and I think we should object, but I don't think we'll win. You know, we can object with under the local plan. We could object under PD5, which is the protecting the outlook from the Peak Park. Because it's going to be very visible from the Peak Park. You know, there's loads of stuff we could object on.
Well, looking at this list, you've got overshadowing, loss of outlook to the detriment of residential amenity again, overlooking and loss of privacy, because it looks like all the residents that are on the Darley House estate are having a problem. Highway issues, traffic generation, vehicular access, highway safety. There is no path on that side. So yes, it's all right for bringing displays in, but it's actually it's a narrow lane. And there's no pathway. It's not well lit. And it does become a rat run the second there's a problem on the A6.
No, I totally agree with you, and you know, I do think we should object. I do. I'm just wondering.
There's also the flood management issue to consider. If there hasn't been suitable management of the water from the site, that is something obviously we should have a concern over. I know that there are many developments in progress at the moment where water management, i.e. the Walls Farm development and other things like that, have proved to be the detriment or potential detriment of the flooding of other areas. So flood management is a definite thing, because what you have to bear in mind, that site where it is, there is a huge hillside above that site, and if they have not addressed any flood management or wastewater, which is currently obviously going into the green grass ground that it is, once you put housing on there, it's quite a material planning condition. It really is.
Well, it's what's happened down at Morledge, isn't it? You know, because they're built on a steep site. Now all the water, instead of draining away, comes down onto the A6, and those poor people that live on the bottom, opposite the water Severn Trent place, they just flood. You know, so it's very valid.
I mean, I don't take on board too much of the facts of it's bad for visual coming out of the site or entering the site. I don't see that as an issue. I think they're taking advantage of their drawing by insinuating that there are going to be future developments. I think that's wrong. I think the flood management should be definitely addressed. And if we're looking at the 18 houses on the site, that is not, in my mind, too big an issue. But the other houses that they are considering in a much smaller site, as Steve quite rightly points out, is very wrong. There are comprehensive neighbourhood objections to it, and as Dawn pointed out, that we are to take those on board. And I see any new development as being detrimental to green space, but if it's sympathetic and necessary, okay, but it doesn't seem like all things have been addressed on this application at all.
No. Dave?
One big concern that seems to come to mind at the moment is that we've had pumping stations failing on a regular basis. We've got tankers pumping at the end of the arc. They've been there for God knows how long. They're still going down there. We've had the 4-lane ends fail in a similar situation. Most of the foul water system is not coping with the overdevelopment that's going off. No. And we're getting to a situation where they need to start looking at how they're handling all this foul water that's coming out of all the house development, because we're still working on Victorian setups.
Yeah.
And the pumping station down at the bottom of the arc has failed on more than one occasion. At the moment, it's in serious trouble. And I think they want to start asking the question.
What they did very successfully, Dave, at St Elphins was they built a couple of swales either side, and that does very successfully capture the water that comes down the hillside, because at one point the A6 used to flood regularly, didn't it, Steve? At the bottom of and it was like clay water used to just run down Grove Lane, and it soaks it up very well. Sorry, Ian, I'm just going to go to Steve and then I'll come back to you. Steve?
A couple of points I'd make. If you look at Morledge, okay, where they've put however many houses up there, if you look back to the flooding last year, there was a picture in the paper of a Land Rover stuck in the middle of the A6 because that area had flooded. Yeah. Now, that area didn't used to flood until them houses went in there, and that's because we're taking away the fields. No. So the lack of a water management plan here, I feel heartily sorry for the people that live on Old Hackney Lane as it stands, because what's going to happen when they develop this site is the water's going to run straight down the tarmac road, straight into the road, and it's going to run into other people's properties and down onto the A6. And we're going to find that will flood exactly the same.
View.
Well, it's going to flood. Yeah. It's going to flood the same as is happening down at Morledge. And as far as I'm aware, that Morledge site, until them houses were built, did not flood because it had natural runoff and it had time to soak into the ground. Yeah. The highway. Yeah. So that's one observation. The other observation for me is, and I just disagree a little bit, Jason, about the entrance. It's a narrow lane, is Old Hackney Lane. It's not. There isn't any footpaths either side, and it's only wide enough to get 2 cars down it, going slowly at that point down. And so I think the entrance to the site does have a material consideration has to be considered for this. And again, the other side of the planning application, that they're going to put 39 houses onto a much smaller site. I'm really worried.
That's 18 houses on its own is one thing, but I'm obviously new to this, but are we considering it as an 18-house development, or are we considering it as a 57-house or 50 whatever it was house development?
I think we've got to look at it as an 18-house development. However, I'm more than happy to speak to John Bradbury or whoever's the officer that's dealing with it.
Because on the basis of 57 houses, I would concur with Steve that it is wrong, because it's putting a lot more pressure within that entranceway. But on the basis of 18 houses, definitely not. But in the basis of
Sorry, Jason. I was just going to say, I suspect that's why they've done this application the way they have, because
to start the entranceway.
Well, we have to take in. We can only debate the actual application and not any possible future applications.
Right.
So we are looking at these 18 houses, and it seems to me like it's a backdoor way in to make it.
I would agree.
Yeah, and that worries me. It really does, and I do feel sorry for the residents of Old Hackney Lane at this point, because I think what's nice open space and is clearly got it's a habitat for the wildlife, and it's going to be lost. And but we can only take it for the 18 properties. So I think we've got plenty of reasons to object.
I think we have. I think so.
first and foremost, that the fact that there are a number of objections from other members of the public. So, irrespective of my own feelings, I would vote with the public on it. I think it's going to be, that site's going to be too compacted when you put 57 houses on it. The 18, lovely because they've got a bit of space, but the others are going to have no space whatsoever.
Just a sec, Dave. Ian, did you want to say something?
That was all, Judy. I was just going to say, I put it on the screen there, you know, the council are objecting themselves at the moment on the lack of information around flood management.
Well, I would use the same grounds. I think flood and issues like that are a massive problem in this area, and they need to be addressed.
To be fair,
the more houses you place, the less drainage you have.
Yeah, to be fair, the county council are really, really good on this, and they objected to Meadowview, but unfortunately district still voted it through.
Yeah, but Julie, the gentleman from Chevin guaranteed them houses would never flood.
Yes, he did. We're going to hold him personally responsible.
Meeting and on video, he's guaranteed them houses will never flood. I hope that doesn't come back to bite him. I really do.
These are Chevin as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Dawn?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, Dawn.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah, I can see you.
Dawn, you've muted yourself.
Yeah. Unmute. That's
Mute.
it.
Yeah. Oh, right. I don't know the planning rules. Does a housing application like this need to have social housing in it? For 18, is there an up to a number? I mean, I know 5 or 6, but no.
No,
because there is no social housing in this tranche.
No,
it's all in the next tranche.
I think they put it all in Meadowview.
Yeah.
I think they've.
But the next tranche is social housing, isn't it? On this one.
I don't know.
Oh, I thought I'd read something about it was part social housing. Sorry, I'm wrong there.
Can I just say, in the planning meeting with Chevin Homes for the site on the A6, they stood there and they said they were gonna do their best to make it 100% social housing or affordable housing down at that site, and that's never come to fruition either, you know. And yet we had the planners saying this was the aim, was to get it all. Julie, was it social housing or was it affordable housing?
Social housing.
And so they stood in a planning meeting and said, no, we want the whole site to be social housing. No, there's very little in the way of social housing down on the A6. So again, it comes down to the fact that this has got no.
You don't need a queue, do
I? Either.
Right. I didn't know if we've got our allocated social housing for the area, then they don't need to do it. Obviously.
No. I think it's the same. It's the same developer. So knowing the way these guys work, there'll have been a handshake done, and
And also, is there any? I know it's only 18, but the next lot of 59, and also is it 50 something across the road, and then possibly 100 down by the. What about our infrastructure? What about the doctors and the schooling?
That's what I'm on about. Well, yeah, I agree.
I've already been on to Jason about for Meadowview, you know, the 57 that are going on Meadowview, because we were promised a crossing there. So I'm already pursuing that. So it's section 106, isn't it?
But the thing is that with the 100 houses by the Royal Bank, the school places, there wasn't enough school places for that lot, and we've already had another one of 54, is it? And then this one, which will be 57, and the doctors as well. I mean, I don't know if you take into consideration in infrastructure, but
they must have done that because
we have some report. Nothing on there.
Yeah, but they've already allocated. I mean, to me, it seems ridiculous, and to you, obviously, it seems ridiculous, and I'm sure to any right-minded person, it seems ridiculous. But they have accounted for this in the local plan for the next going up to 2033.
Julie,
so,
okay.
Can I just?
I hear what you're saying, though.
Can I just read
the
objection from Alex Johnson? And if I just look at it, we're talking about S106 money and things like that. So, in fact, I'm going to read you the whole letter if you don't mind. It's either put, hi, it looks like there has been an error on the application. The developer has assumed 18 market dwellings and made no mention of affordable houses on a greenfield site, so there should be a lot of profit in them for them and the landowner. I don't think an off-site contribution is acceptable in this situation. 180,000 isn't enough when they will be selling homes on the site for 5 million plus. There needs to be more 4-bed affordable homes. Perhaps the developer could offer some up for local families rather than flogging them for 500k a time. As for this application creating vibrancy on Old Hackney Lane, yeah, please. Clearly, building 18 houses with no shops or park, nearest is well over a mile away, which I presume is the Whitworth they're talking about, will add any benefit to the Hackney area. I assume planners must recognise this. And let's not get away from it being a totally unsuitable site. Just how was this included in the local plan? Massively open field, seen from miles around. Car needed for school, car to shops, car to park, car to work, car to pub, etc. Yes, one positive is it's near a main road with a bus stop, a bus route, but no crossing to get to the other side, so just dangerous. Just because council has nodded it into the local plan doesn't mean it's acceptable for development. Workers for build will most likely not come from Derbyshire Dales, will just cause noise and traffic to locals. Unless they add affordable dwellings on site or a shop or a park or something to make it useful to locals other than developers and landowners' back pockets, I think it should be refused. They actually have a point. You know, it's all right saying that it's going to make Hackney Lane, Old Hackney Lane vibrant, but it actually isn't bringing anything to the community other than more traffic, more building work, more potentially more flooding. There is nothing positive about this application, in my opinion.
No, I agree, Steve. I agree. Dave?
I think we've got to start talking to district about this and get a clear view on what they're actually pushing towards Darley-Dale all the time and allowing on this planning, because I've always said about infrastructure, and we are totally lacking in infrastructure. We've got 3, counting Matlock and Darley-Dale, we've got 3 doctor's surgeries. You can't get in this side of 3 months half the time. You're absolutely useless to get in. We've got very limited areas where we can actually travel around the area. You're in a traffic jam constantly. It takes 40 minutes to get into Matlock from the Whitworth on a regular basis. That is. We're in a seasonal area where we're accumulating more traffic per year than most people around us in a 30-mile radius because of the way we are. So the infrastructure is struggling. But I'm also concerned about the flooding aspects, because the new site opposite Meadowview is flooded. They've got their own natural lake there at the moment.
Yeah.
And all the way that they're talking, all that water that's coming down off all these developments has got to go somewhere. And at the moment, we don't have a say, and we need to have some conversation with them before all these planning applications are going in. Because Darley-Dale's getting just absolutely ignored.
Taking the majority of the housing allocation all of Derbyshire
we
Dales.
Have.
It's absolutely outrageous.
Taken a third for the whole of Derbyshire Dales.
I think
Greenfield.
Yeah, and
I think
sites.
We should have a say in what we're having on our sites and what is happening to the infrastructure around this area, because if we count Darley-Dale as Darley-Dale, and you assume that Morledge, all the people from Morledge up to our boundary on Tinkersley all go to the same surgery, you're not going to ever get in that surgery.
No.
You can't do it.
Unfortunately.
So we need another surgery, but we also need another school.
Yeah.
Because the more houses you put in, the more children are produced.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Dave. But unfortunately, that ship sailed. They've already drawn up their local plan, and that was basically why Steve and I became councillors off the back of that local plan, because we were so appalled by it, and we just kind of sleepwalked into it. You know, we trusted that they would do the honourable thing, but unfortunately, you know, this is what we've been saddled with, and now it's up to us to try and fight back. we can, which I'm happy to do on this one.
What we need, Julie, is look at what we're going to object to, because I think on this individual application, I don't think we can go with overdevelopment based on this particular application, because they've been very crafty, in my opinion, by putting the application in for 18 properties. Because if they did put it in for 57 all at once, I do believe they would have to provide affordable housing right through the site. And I think it would, you know, you'd look at 57 houses on the available space and ask clear questions about why they're trying to cram some in on one side and give the others space. It doesn't make sense, and it's going to look appalling when it's finished. So we've got to find the material reasons to object, and one, as Jason and yourself have already said, is down to the lack of a water plan. And you know, because they can't get away with that in this day and age. We all know the risks of flooding and global warming. They cannot get away with that, with not considering the effect of the development and that of its local.
And I think if we can get it to committee, unfortunately, I don't think there's enough objections yet. We need to see if we can get a few more objections in. But if we can get it to committee, when we fought them against Meadowview, quite a lot of them said if they'd known then what they know now about climate change and the flooding situation, they would never have voted Meadowview through.
It may be worth somebody replying to Carol Taylor's email. I presume it was an email, the letter you've just read out, that had Carol's name on the bottom of it, Julie. Yes. It may be worth replying to that and asking her to garner more support for either for or against the site. You know, we need all the residents' views on this, and we can't lead them one way or another. They need to get either their objections in for the site, or they need to get their acceptance of the site in writing if they want to get it before the committee.
I think is the 5 in at the moment?
Yes.
Yeah.
But then you've got the
trigger is 7, I believe.
Yeah, you've got the objection from which one is it that's objected because of the lack of a water plan?
That's county, and
then we're going to object as well, I presume. Obviously, we'll find out when you move it to the motion, but I would assume, judging from the conversation we're having, we're likely to object. So
would that be enough, Ian? Would that be 7? Sorry, I can't hear you.
There's 8 consultation replies at the moment.
Is there?
2 of which are from the councils, or council departments, so 6 residents.
I'm not sure if that counts. I don't know if the count. It does count, does it, Jason?
No, I don't think it does. I think the easiest thing to do would be to talk to the residents group, because the residents group has tried to do what is the correct thing to do by speaking through one voice and getting the cumulative comments of other neighbours. But in this case, it could act to their detriment. So I think we really do need to say something to them to say, look, share a few more voices, raise a few more concerns, and we will probably share those concerns with you and get it to a committee.
Just bear in mind, Jason, we can't guide them one way or the other. All we can ask them to do is make their representation.
No. Make their representation either negatively or positively. Yeah.
I was just going to say, on that note, it's quite important that I get something to feed back to the people who sent that note in. So Carol and I had a bit of an exchange, and I did promise to give her some feedback from the council when they'd gone through that letter.
Yeah, so can I talk to you about that then, and perhaps we can talk to Carol, do a conference call or something, and
okay, let's you and I have a chat about that tomorrow then, Julie, if you're around. And,
okay. I think it would be good if we could do that, if we if we could get it to committee, because I think there's 1 or 2 people on the committee, the Burfoots and the guy from Rosalie, whose name escapes me, Steve, but he's from the Green Party, isn't he?
Yeah.
He'll definitely vote if it's to do with flooding. Sorry, Dawn, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. I moved. Yeah, right. Yeah. How many do you need? How many representations do you need?
7.
Do you say 7, to get it? You've got 7. You've got 6 online. There's 6 online, plus Carol, I assume, has sent hers in online as well. There is 6 representations
well,
online.
Carol's isn't there yet. I mean, I think one of the messages back to residents whenever they send letters in to us is that they should also respond directly back
I'm
to
just saying that there is 6 online though already.
There's 6 online, and we need 7. Is that
So
correct?
Well, Jason Atkin gave me the grounds for another issue, and he says 7 is generally the trigger for taking a decision to committee, and on that basis, I'm giving that information.
Okay. Well, I'll talk to Ian, and then we'll see if we can get Carol to rustle up, you know, some support if she's possible.
Positive or negative?
Whatever they, you know, obviously whatever they want to do.
Oh, sorry. I think there might. Sorry, I didn't realise there was a second page. I think there is already 7 representations received. There is Susan Hancock, Mr. J. Burks. Let me just go back to page 1. You've got Adrian Dupra-Picken, another A. Dupra-Picken, Michael Bieg. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing these right. M&S Bieg, and Alex Johnson. So that is 7 representations. Let me just have a look at the other 2 on page 2 and see what their content is on there.
I think the problem you've got, Steve, is that if you look at the content behind them, then some of them are follow-up emails. So you've read, some are from the same people, and they seem to file them separately as 2 if you read them.
Because normally you can put in, so for instance, if you've got a husband and wife living in a property, they can put their own objections separately and they all count. But I'll have
I only had a quick look, Steve, but particularly the last one that you mentioned there, that is a follow-up. It sort of starts with further to my last email to you, you know, so, you know, we need to get as many people as we possibly can to
I'll be with you in a sec, Dave. I can see you. I'll be with you in a sec. I just want to ask Steve something quickly. Steve, are you on the application? Can you see who's the officer for this?
I will tell you. Just bear with me 1 second.
Because what I can do is I can ring them tomorrow. I'll ring the officer and just say, look, is it going to committee or not? And just find out how the land lies at the moment.
Right, let's have a look. Who's the officer on this one?
Dave, what did you want to say, Dave?
It's basically an environmental and services issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an impact on the environment and it's an overstrain on services, and that includes water flow.
Yeah.
And I think they've got to start understanding that you can't keep tapping into the original water system. You just can't keep doing it. And they should know because of what's going off down in Matlock at the moment. And all this water of all our developments is all going towards Matlock, by the way.
Yeah.
It says Sarah Arbon.
I know Sarah.
Yeah.
I'll ring Sarah tomorrow and check to see if it's going to committee. And if it's not, I'll ring you, Ian. Okay.
Looking at these representations received, the one that's gone in from Mr. J. Burks, he's put on his representation, he's put, I am in receipt of the proposed layout of this development, which I reluctantly find acceptable. So he's not objecting.
Okay.
Okay, so he says he reluctantly finds it acceptable. Then we've got the other one from Susan. Sorry, I can't see her last name because I've come off the page where it says it. She wishes to object, comment on the above. Clearly, a beautiful view will be lost. Without doubt, there will be a significant, if not dangerous, increase in traffic on which is a designated lane. And she's put lane in capitals. The increase in vehicles will have a serious detriment to people coming out of and into Darley House Estate, as well as the junction on the A6. There is very little room for vehicles travelling in 2 directions. In the construction stage, this will mean heavy vehicles, lorries, etc., using little to no control over the many that speed up and down the lane, even though it's a 30-mile-an-hour area. It is sad we have to make these comments at such a late stage, as we already know the land has been purchased by a property developer. Our little green space is getting even smaller. That's it. That's all she said.
Okay. Right. Well, I propose then that we object to this. We've obviously got multiple reasons why we can object to it. So I think our main grounds at the moment are flood and water management and the risk or lack of flood and water management.
Environmental.
So yeah, environmental, infrastructure, and PD5 as well. I'll throw that at them. I suppose we could go with overlooking, I suppose. There's plenty of stuff that we can object on. So you know, I'll put something together. So I propose that we object to this.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favour? Yeah. So
Dawn, if you're voting, we can't see you.
Dawn's not on the committee.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Dawn, I thought you were part of planning.
No. Just offering her expertise to
being nosy.
No, well, that's the beauty of these committees. People can turn up and have a chat and contribute, and it is good.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's good.
Yeah, especially you know, with somebody that's been on the council for quite a while, because obviously you know what's happened in the past as well, whereas we perhaps don't. So it's
the biggest thing we've got at the moment on whatever's happening is that for years we've fought to stop a lot of these fields being built on. The one thing that's been argued throughout is the fact that water runs off roads and housing and it goes somewhere, and nobody's caught on to the fact it's all going towards Matlock.
Yeah.
And they want to start thinking that there's only so much water can go somewhere before it floods.
Yeah.
That new development, if the planning department come and looked at that new development opposite Meadow View, they'd see what we're on about.
Yeah. Oh, the planning recommended refusal of that application.
Look at
They
it.
never wanted that.
Why did it get through?
Planning committee voted it through.
Exactly.
The planning department recommended refusal.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but it was voted through by officers that don't live in the area. That's what I'm getting at.
So, yeah, we've got our district councillors to thank for that. So, okay, what's next on the agenda? Sorry, I've lost it.
Sure.
The schedule of meetings and just the date of the next meeting. We penciled in. I think we're going for the Monday before the Thursday council meeting.
That's correct. Yeah. So are we all okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. What day?
Monday.
Now the only complication that I want to throw into the mix on a Monday, much as it's a great day and I can do it, Jude, it's not a problem. But you saw the problem today. Neither Sean or I work on a Friday or a Monday.
Yes.
So when you Zoom in, you will get the invite late, I'm afraid. We don't really send it too early because that was the advice we got after the incident we had at that previous council meeting. Don't send them out too early. So you're going to get them a bit late. And of course, it also means any late consultations, even if they come in Friday morning, they're not really going to be picked up until I log in maybe 5 o'clock on a Monday and send them out to you. So I apologise in advance, but that's just the way we're working at the moment. I think Steve, Anne and Sean and I are going to talk about how we might cover the week a bit better, but that's the position at the moment.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's not a problem.
So for those of you on the finance committee, we've got a finance meeting tomorrow night, and then we've got personnel Wednesday. Jason, you're in on that one as well.
Yeah.
And then we've got the main meeting on Thursday. All the other meetings this week start at 7:30, apart from the main meeting, which is at 7.
Okay.
And when we go back to face-to-face meetings, Julie, I mean, and Steve, you know, we'll review the meeting schedule anyway, because you want to do the finance meeting perhaps before the main council meeting, and maybe the personnel as well will slip in there somewhere. So, but for now, let's stick to that Monday before the main meeting.
Dave?
This is while Steve's on, can I just say that Ian's incentive to put the calendar up is good. At least it keeps everybody on side.
Yeah. Ian, is there an easy way to find a link for that calendar? Because at the minute I have to scroll through all my emails to try and find the one you sent the calendar on.
Go on the Darley site.
You can favourite it, Steve, and do it that way, or I can just send you a link through in an email, and you can do that. No, the best thing to do is go to it and then favourite it, little star in your browser.
Right.
Then it'll add it on a taskbar below you, and you can just click on it every time you need it.
Either that, or as Dave, go to the website. It's on the website, isn't it?
It's on the website. Takes you straight to it. If you favourite it, you won't have to go into the main website and find it.
Right. Okay then, guys. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll call it a day of that. Did you want to say something, Dawn?
Have you stopped recording now?
You want me to?
Well, yeah, because it's not important.
Okay. Are you okay for me to stop recording, Julie?
Yes.
You finished the meeting. You've just finished it.